Welcome back to episode 2 of our 5-part series, Behind the Rules. I'm joined today by two special guests, AFL Queensland's alternative formats and analytics lead, Brad Howard, and Brisbane Lions legend, recent Queensland Hall of Fame member, Simon Black. Gents, great to have you both on today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mitch.
So, in our chat today, we're going to be looking closely at the AFL junior match policy and in particular the literature review that went in behind it. So, as a bit of background, the AFL, in collaboration with the state football bodies and the Australian Sports Commission, developed the next generation Australian rules football match policy. That ideally drove the shape of the game that was essentially for any kids in our game aged 5 to 18 years. That was back in 2012. It was evident there was obviously some clear gaps in the policy. Howie, can you take us through a little bit around, what happened when the gaps were identified and next steps from there?
Yep, certainly, Mitch. So the AFL engaged Deakin University to do a study and it was targeted across 2 phases. So the first one was actually evaluating its intended and actual purpose to see whether or not it was effective. And the second part was looking at whether leagues had adopted or hadn't adopted it and basically how that impacted the player's experience.
So there's obviously plenty of detail that went into it, a number of leagues, and it was conducted over 3 years, is that right?
Yep, 3 years, and it came out with a couple of pretty clear outcomes.
So, Simon, before we dive into the more detail around the literature review, obviously a key part of, your football experience these days is watching from the sidelines as a parent. Can you talk through, what football looks like to you and what are the key, outcomes that you're looking for your kids playing footy?
Yeah, Mitch, I'm a father of 3 and 2 of the 3 are playing football now. So, in short, it's around fun, isn't it? It's about cultivating a love for the game and enjoyment for the game and obviously along with being able to teach children the game and the rules of the game and so forth as long as developing their skills. So fun, understand the game and development of the skills. And look, it's been fantastic, the age-appropriate rules as a part of the review and things like the size of the field, the amount of players on the field and the length of quarters has been fantastic. And a part of the review as well as, I guess, going back and looking over the existing practices of junior football match day policy and whether some changes need to be made. So, yeah, it's great to be part of it.
Yeah, good. It's great to have insight of, an actual parent, watching their own kids play footy. So we touched on some of the little insights there with Blackie, but Howie, can you talk us through what the actual findings of the review entailed?
Yep. So overall, there was 2 really clear outcomes. The first one was that it increases players' involvement in the game, which ultimately leads to them having more fun and staying in the game for longer. Because again, it increased their perception of competence as well, which I think is something that's really important, where kids actually feel like they're able to play the game and they want to keep doing it for longer as well. And the other part was just it creates a better match day environment, and that's the other key part to, I suppose, keeping players retained in our game. We want to make sure that it's really easy for coaches to coach, easy for umpires to umpire, because sometimes they get forgotten a little bit as well, and we want to make that overall match day environment really conducive for people to have fun.
Yeah, very good. So, Blackie, something that we spoke about previously is that what resonates with you is what's important to parents isn't always what's important to kids.
Yeah, exactly. It's very different at times. I think as parents we can be guilty on an outcome results winning basis, but for kids a lot of the time it's really around just the enjoyment and the fun, and we've got to keep that in mind. In fact, I saw a stat there earlier that of the 81 things, characteristics of fun, what comes in at number 48 for children is actually winning. So we must keep that in mind as parents and I guess as coaches on the sideline. Creating that fun environment is what it's all about, and that's what's sustainable in terms of kids wanting to play the game long term. So being able to cultivate that fun environment is all important.
Yeah, and I think that's an important, certainly an important message to share. And one thing that we often, instill in our coaches and in our club networks is that the idea of, competing at all times, not necessarily win at all costs. So, it's a really good message to share. So, Howie, what other findings were there throughout the research?
Yeah, the other key finding, and you sort of just touched on how important the coach is in a match day environment role, and the relationship that a participant has with their coach is actually the number one factor as to whether or not that kid comes back to play next year. So it's the approach of the coach, it's the outcomes they achieve, but not necessarily the outcomes they achieve on field. I think that's got to be kept in mind. It's really important that it's just about teaching them the on-field strategies and how to win, but it's just giving them an environment where the kids can really enjoy themselves and make them want to come back next year. And that was basically highlighted as one of the main contributing factors as to long-term participation.
Yeah, very good. Anything else, Blackie, from that?
Look, I just think it's really worth noting there's a lot of there's substantial education process required for coaches and for football clubs in general going forward. So the AFL Queensland will be holding a whole lot of, upskilling, coaching and umpiring workshops and forums going forward. So look out for those because it's really important that everyone in the football community understands the new changes going forward.
Very good. Look, Howie and Simon, thanks for getting into the nitty-gritty of the AFL Junior Match Policy Review. Some really key takeaway and important points there for our parents, for our coaches, and as I said, the greater footy community alike. So, thanks everyone for tuning into episode 2 of Behind the Rules. In the next episode, the three of us will we'll be back to take a look at the research, particularly into the age-appropriate rules and how they benefit our participants in their enjoyment in sport. So, as always, if you're watching this and you're new to our game, make sure you head to play.afl to find your way to play today.